Welcome, everybody, to the presidential address. I am Patrick Reyes, the program chair for this year and upcoming president. Unless Boy Young does a hostile takeover, which I'd be 100% okay for. If you all support her in a coup, let her go for another year. That'd be fantastic for me personally. But I'm deeply, deeply grateful to be here with you. We have guests with us. They're going to help us today. So they haven't been with us for the last 3 days. So we got Julia and Amelia. If you can drop and say what this meeting has been for you in the chat. What has this done for you? What in the sessions, in the plenaries, what has this done for you? Drop in the chat so that way they get a sense of what has been happening over the last couple days. And as you do this, I want to just express my gratitude to the teams that have put this together. So I'm so grateful to Mary for getting the word out, for adjusting, for polling, for making the transition possible for us to go to online from in person, to Lakeisha Lockhart, who not only was leading us through a pandemic, but birthed a human in it as well and still showed up. I mean, this is just incredible. And to the rest of Boy Young and the rest of the steering committee for supporting this work and continuing going. I mean, this has been a true gift and a real pleasure to be the program chair in this moment. Now, this has been an invitation to be a good ancestor. And so how do we capture the words, the stories, the ancestors we welcome at the beginning who we don't yet know in REA? How do we capture the love that has been in this, in the plenary sessions, in the workshops, the collaborative sessions, the research interest groups? This has been such a gift. And as we think about how we move into this, I have not cried so much at an academic conference as I have this one. And that is in deep gratitude to Ann Walker as the VP and hosting the last two nights, just incredible sessions with Kim Anderson, Patricia Bonilla, Lisa Dellinger, and Yenny Delgado. Just thank you so much for your truth, honesty, for modeling a different way of being a good ancestor in the kitchen table talk methodology. Just, I mean, it's just profound, to the point that I told Ann this over text. Carmelita was sitting over my shoulder. That's my daughter, who's 5. And she started pointing at each of the faces as they were just, talking yesterday. And she said, "Who are those folks?" As I'm crying about stuff that's going on. And I said, "Those are my friends." And I really mean that about REA and about all of you. So just deep love and gratitude for you and all that we do. We are truly doing this work with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind for sure. So gratitude to each of you. So as we get into this presidential address, I want to transition us to see what it might be as scholars, as practitioners in religious education, to lead and do scholarship in a slightly different way, in a way that yesterday talked a little bit about performance, what that might look like. So we have No Boy Project that's going to help model that a little bit. And we're going to open with a documentary they put together and then have a little Q&A about their process and what they do. So without further ado, or any words from me, can we hit that documentary?
Say sila king charlechtoch. The weather is very cold. Suli roksad nubnumni, what you gonna do today? Ini being I just gonna stay home. But they don't understand now. this younger generation.
I'm in a movie.
And I've been back to old Saigon, but how much of you is lost when they change your name? Oh, 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 Saigon tears.
How did I end up playing a concert in the dead of winter in a remote Alaskan village a stone's throw from the Arctic Circle? This town of 600 or so is called Shishmaref, or Kikiktok in Inupiaq, which is what most of these folks are. There's one store, a church, a post office, and a school, and that's about it. Everything gets shipped in by plane, and in January, when we came, you're seeing 3 or 4 hours of good daylight, and it's well below freezing. Recently, a slew of articles and documentaries have reported on Shish because the drastic effects of climate change can be witnessed in the melting sea ice, which has altered hunting seasons, and the island itself is eroding into the sea. So it would be easy to start things off by saying, at the edge of the world, a people on the brink of losing it all. It's true that, like most Native communities in America, this is a story of loss, of culture, of language, of diet, tradition, land, and now ice, and potentially the whole village. These losses hang on the past and dim the future. But that's not the whole story.
What's your favorite class in school?
Kindergarten.
What do you do for fun?
Blend the ice.
What do you like to eat?
Burrito.
Can you sing your favorite song?
Take my home to the other. I can life it.
Nice job. How do you feel?
I made some caribou soup the other day. I was so happy and surprised that little guy.
Yeah.
Tyler showed him some pizza in the plate, and he said, shook his head, no, he wanted my soup.
What are some of the other bigger changes?
Prices of food. We used to buy stove oil for $35 a barrel,
Yeah.
pack of cigarettes for 35 cents, but I never quit yet.
It used to just be one boat a year would come in with supplies?
Yeah, that used to be a government ship, BIA, mostly. North Star, they call it. They used to bring us supplies. Just the staples, mostly. Flour, sugar, milk, coffee.
Right.
Everything is flown in now. They fly in hamburgers, chicken. The diet has really changed.
soy sauce, Thai chili sauce, and margarita.
All-star plays basketball. 2, 2, 1, Derek, shoot the ball. Yeah, you can do it. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, he did it.
My partner Amelia and I were asked to come serve as artists in residence, to share a method of interviewing elders and turning these conversations into art. We sang songs, Amelia taught embroidery classes, and we encouraged students to see the importance of connecting with village elders and taking on the stories and lessons they have to share.
Take my home to the old town. I'm gonna ride to
Yeah.
I'm Amelia, and it's been really nice to get to spend time with all the kids at school. I've been working with them, teaching them how to do embroidery. So hopefully this week we'll get some students sewing some images from their family histories.
My name is Rachel Sinak Stasenko, and I'm from Shishmaref.
And when the men went out hunting for bearded seals in the spring, what month would it be and how far out would they go?
They usually get ugrooks on last part of May and in June. And they usually travel about 8 miles out, but it depends on the ice. If there's a white ice, they stay out there, but when it start breaking up and have dirty ice, then they get closer to Shishmaref, closer on shoreline.
And what did you do for fun as a kid?
Oh, we did lots of things. We make up stuff. We used to play Eskimo games like baseball, and then mana mana, and we used to play hapchikacha on the beach. We used to make jump ropes out of grass, braid them up. When we got a little older, we used to go skating on a pond and play tags. We had little wooden skates.
Hear the old folks sing them old songs. The background just fades away.
Even though I didn't understand the songs completely as I learned them, I learned a lot more about our language, a lot more of the language. And now I'm learning even deeper by going back to the songs. Plus, it helped me really connect with my gram.
All the villages got different dialects. We can't speak with anybody from St. Lawrence Island because it's Siberian dialect. I don't even understand it.
When could people start ordering stuff from catalogs?
Oh, long ago. We used to order from Sheeran Roebuck and Montgomery Ward, Eldon's. They used to have a real thick catalog. When they expired, they were tissue. It used to be fun though. In those days we had no TV, no electricity. We just had gas lamps. We'd play with marble and line up empty shells and try to hit them.
I mean, like my boy, he's only 2 years old, and he often whines for one of our phones.
Yeah. I got to be honest, nowadays, unless you know something about a computer, it's hard to find a job. We just have to adapt to it.
Pretty young ghosts cross a border for a cage. Pay attention to your ghost if you want to know a better age.
But the water has risen about 2 feet since I was a kid. Temperature has risen, not today.
Are you all going to have to move?
Well, I don't know. Not the way the government is operating. They're more worried about building a wall between America and Mexico than they are their own people.
You think that money would be better spent helping folks up here move into some
we're
place?
Americans. When I was a kid, they used to get polar bears before Christmas.
Yeah.
That'd be solid ice out there. Very little snow nowadays. I mean, my house here, even this house, would be up to the windows, and we'd have to shovel to get some daylight. Not anymore.
It has a big impact, right, on the hunting?
On the hunting and fishing. Early in the fall, we'd like to do ice fishing up the river, but we can't cross the lagoon anymore. But that ice out there is real thin now. Now these boys, when they go hunting, the ice is gone.
In history books, we tell stories in bold-lettered proper nouns. We squash things down. Being in Shish gave me a view of a society that was, yes, perhaps on the brink of eroding into the sea, but the day by day was not consumed by even these most dire circumstances. There is worry and fear, but there is still dancing, basketball, hunting, Eskimo games, and family. These are the things that make up rich day-to-day lives. I guess my point is, if you want to talk about these communities, don't flatten them down into faraway victims, into poster children for your cause. First, see the depth of the place, the people, and the traditions. Only then can we begin to understand what the melting ice and rising seas stand to take from us.
After school drill, the ice sheet, hook up fish with frostbite feet, leave the lagoon, go find something to eat at Stella's house, Eskimo ice cream. Songs of praise, painful church pews. Suzuk, save the language through some old hymns so long after you should move. Grandkids will still sing them too. Shish Marev, Kikik-tok, Shish Marev, Uvlalotok. Snow machine home from Nellie's place. Alexandra, where your father's face. The roads washed out, sank beneath the waves. Buried and Big D, keep 'em safe. Frozen walk Olivin game night. Kate carved seal shot ulu knife. For eldest boy it's in-game dunk highlight. Go team, go green, northern lights. Shish Marev, Kikik-tok, Shish Marev, Uvlalotok, Uvlalotok.
So I want to invite Dr. Julian. This is a No No Boy project. You got to go nonoboyproject.com. But No No Boy is an immersive multimedia work, blending original folk songs you saw, storytelling, projected archival images, emerges out of research, and Amelia, soon to be Esquire, lawyer, doing great advocacy work. I think have just modeled some of the ways that we can start imagining together how we might become good ancestors. So welcome, Julian and Amelia. And I just want to ask you about your process. Tell us about who you are and what you do in the world.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Like I said, anytime you call us, we'll be there. I think I met Patrick going on 4 or 5 years now, right, brother? Yeah. And always happy to collaborate and share what we do. Start with introductions.
Sure. I'm Amelia. I sing and do all kinds of behind the scenes creative stuff for No No Boy. And as part of this project, I was inspired to go to law school after our trips to the US-Mexico border.
Yeah, I'm Julian. As Patrick just said, I just became a doctor, not one that can help you, but as many of you know, one that is overly literate. And but I guess part of this project, it all started in the last 10 years. I was kind of stuck in grad school. Yeah, exactly 10 years. I'm liberated now. I'm just a musician again, world's smartest street musician, I guess. And but somewhere along the way, I was doing all this interesting history research on Asian American folks, immigrants, refugees. I come from a family of refugees from Southeast Asia. And I remember I was at an academic conference and I was just given a regular paper presentation, and it was pretty cool. There was like 20 people in the audience, which, as you know, it's a pretty darn good crowd for an academic paper. But I was looking out and I was thinking, man, when I used to be in a band in my 20s, I used to play for hundreds, maybe 1,000 people a night. And now I actually got something to say. So when I got back to Brown University, which is where Amelia did her undergrad, and a few years later, I finished on my PhD, I started just like when I was teaching, making my students do anything but a paper. And now I give workshops called Anything But a Paper, basically modeling like you just saw in that documentary. Instead of writing an academic paper, maybe a little overly jargony, I wanted to find ways to use that previous way of knowing that I had cultivated as a songwriter, as a musician, as a music video maker, to, I don't know, share some of these really important stories. So whether it's like talking about this little island in Alaska, that's like sort of a poster child for climate change and wanting to unflatten those people, these quote unquote climate refugees, or similarly wanting to unflatten friends of mine who I've met down at the US-Mexico border where we were for a good couple of years before the pandemic, trying to just breathe life. And I find that music and art can really do a good job of that in ways that sometimes we can't do as academics, in the typical prose fashion. Instill some humanity, bring sound and color and vision and spirit back into these stories that we want to tell, that we spent so much time researching. And sometimes it breaks my heart, some of my academic colleagues like doing this research that needs to be heard by millions of people, and it just kind of languishes in these journals, and I read them, but I'm an overprivileged academic, and so by doing embroidery like Amelia does, or making little movies, or songwriting, folk songs, a very ancient tradition. I always say if it was good enough for Homer writing the Odyssey and the Iliad, it's good enough for me to sing history. So yeah, it's kind of the process. We just sort of go around, do some ethnography. I'm big on archival work, but then I try to make sure the knowledge production extends into my artistic practice, instead of just keeping it in such a cloistered place like we were up at Brown the last few years.
Appreciate that so much. And as we're going to have another about 15 minutes with you. So if you have questions for Julian or Amelia based on that documentary or about their work, go ahead and drop into the chat. I'm going to offer up a question to kind of get we'll take one or two questions from the audience, and we'll play something you produced for us for REA, which I think is really cool.
We always got to play a little music for you. Yeah. Always. What's the point of being a musician if you don't play a couple songs? Break up the academic conference,
One of the things that I think is so right about what you said, and I think leads into what you just said, is that what you do is research. It's not just performance songs. So if you could talk about what are the archives, where are the people, how do you put all this together? Because I've seen you perform is, well, I mean, next to an academic miracle for me that you weren't unformed to reform yourself to be able to present these stories and do this. But talk to us about how the research as an academic ties into this work, this beauty
so
you're bringing to the
for
world.
Instance, that last song, Shishmaref, it was just based off what would have been an ethnography otherwise, an ethnography that would have been probably maybe cool to read, but you can like give all these little details by using poetry and music and melody and music video to kind of get people to feel what it's like, again, to unflatten whatever it is, the climate refugee, the indigenous person, the migrant, all these things that are politically useful terms, but it doesn't capture the humanity of these people. And so for me, if we can kind of, when we play in concert, project archival images that I've like collected through my PhD, whether it's songs about Japanese internment camps or Vietnamese refugees, our work down at the border, literally bring these to light in front of an auditorium of people, and then sing sometimes songs that are written verbatim from the archive, from oral histories that I've collected or I found elsewhere, or just old contemporaneous newspaper magazine articles and stuff like that. So it's really just, all of my inspiration comes from research, from all the academic research we're all trained to do. I just put it into songs.
I wish I could sing. I'm gonna be stuck writing articles. For anyone who has a chat or a question, drop in the chat or take yourself off mute. Go ahead and ask the question. We have time for 1 to 2 questions here before we play the next song, which y'all produced for us. I'll give everyone, maybe this is a group that's just taking it all in. Y'all been in conference for 3 days.
Oh, just chill, y'all. If you got questions, are you touring anytime soon? I don't tour. Is the video available? Yeah, the video is available on YouTube. Well, lots of stuff, big internet presence on nonoboyproject.com. We did a little tour, but because of the nature of the work, it's like really heavy stuff. We get into, some personal family histories, but as well as just hard histories to talk about. I don't do too like touring like I used to. I can't tour 40 nights in a row. So we just did a summer tour that was like 6 dates over a month. Mostly it's invite only, which is really nice. So we do a lot of residencies at colleges where I'll be able to go work with a professor or a couple professors who will bring me there, teach a little bit for that week, do a workshop, anything but a paper workshop or songwriting or deep listening practices, and then do a concert at the end of the week. I think Christine, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you both so much. I noticed at the end of the documentary and the song that you noted that you returned all the rights to the film and the song back to Shish and its people. I have some ideas of why you did that, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why something like that is important when we're telling people's stories.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I mean, it doesn't even seem like something I would have a quandary over at all. It's just, it's their visuals, it's their people, it's their stories. The song was only inspired because of the invitation to come up and be an artist in residence. So they can do whatever they want with that song. They can make royalties off it if they ever wished. They can, and mostly that project, it's nice to show people like y'all, but it was mostly made for their own students at this little high school on this little island to one, be like, okay, you're popping up in like the Smithsonian or something. That's neat. Maybe that inspires you to, you know, do projects similar. But yeah, it's a model. It's a model for those kids at that high school to be like, you don't just have to write papers. You can make little documentaries. So yeah, I mean, while I was in grad school, I got a pretty hefty stipend, you know, Ivy League university. So while I was in school, all my touring proceeds and record sales went to helping individual refugees coming up from Central America, which also felt like a no-brainer. If I'm going to sing about these people and people are going to come hear it, I'm going to make sure to funnel some of their nice liberal white people money back into the people that actually need it. And yeah, I mean, now I don't have a job, so I have to make a little bit of a living, but service is always the key component to what we do. And being a good hang, and as an ethnographer, you know, like it's a very colonial project. And so how do you maybe undo that or complicate it in a good way? Reverse some of that bad complication? I don't know. You start by giving rights and money back. And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something you've like talked a lot about when we have gone places where we're interacting with the community, is that that's one of the nice things about having music to bring. It's like you have something to offer back to them. So it's not just this like process of extraction for academic purposes or whatever purposes, but there's like an element of collaboration, and like you're also offering something, whether that's like service or music or whatever it is.
Yeah, a lot of my ethnography has become concerts that I put on, and a lot of people will come share their stories of their families, immigration or refugee stories. So it's not just going in like I did when I started as a grad student, collecting, you know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily, because I think those stories should be collected, but it is a complicated and a very fraught history. So yeah, just trying to be a decent human, I guess. And so, yeah, you got to take care of people who take care of you, you know, whether that's making sure to tip the bartender at your gig or giving rights back to the fine people of Shishmaref.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Should I hit these real quick before we
That's right.
do the video? Okay, so how'd you come yeah, No No Boy is named after John Okada's book. I do have ties to the Japanese American community. I got a nice woman who lived through the camps. I know many people lived through the camps, but this one woman in particular was a singer in a jazz band that I researched. She's like a grandma to me. So I definitely sing for her every time we do a concert. Say more about your thoughts on the Academy. I'd prefer not to, maybe over a beer. Do you pick subjects for videos, or do people come to you? I do get commissions. I've gotten commissions from some nice people with deep pockets, which is great, like national parks and stuff. So I've done some of that stuff, but mostly it's just wherever I go. And if there's a cool story, a good hang, I try to bring that to life. Question: you describe the songs as a sort of ethnographic reporting tool, but have there been ways you've also found the song creation and epistemologically distinct in the sense that you come to see and know in new, we got to work on truncating these questions, my friend, in new ways through the act of poetry? I will say this, Andrew, that the process of songwriting and playing these songs in concerts helps me to recombine my research every single night, every time I make a new set list. So new ideas, new connections between cultures and communities that I study come up. So the process of songwriting and performing live has really helped. Okay, cool. Let's run those videos. So we have 2 songs we recorded for you. One is a song called Little Saigon. Like I said, I'm Vietnamese. It's sort of an imagining of a place where I could have gone to when I was like 12 years old, growing up in Nashville, Tennessee. And then the second one is, I thought maybe fitting for this conference, a song called You Are Love. It's a love song, but the first time we performed it was at this place called Blue Cliff Monastery in upstate New York, one of Thich Nhat Hanh's, I guess, retreats, or so it's like very, very spiritually powerful to me. So I hope you enjoy these 2 songs, and it's intercut with footage from our summer tour. I know this was on Zoom, so I wanted to put in some travel footage to help take us out and into the world. Ready?
I heard about a place called Little Saigon, where everybody's got my face, so mine won't have to grow so long. Palm trees, a terrace, cedar cafe, where I belong. Oh, I think I'd like to go to this place, Little Saigon. One day I'm gonna go to a place called Little Saigon, buy shoes in a little shop and silk from Vietnam. Take lessons on the Dan Bao and play an old folk song. Oh, I think I'd like to go to this place, Little Saigon. Je vais aller à Little Saigon. J'enverrai une lettre en français à ma maman. C'est pas Saigon, maman, mais je serai content longtemps. Oh, un jour, je voudrais aller à Little Saigon. One day I'm gonna go to a place called Little Saigon. Listen to the CBC band loud with my headphones on. Just walk around the indoor mall where the language sounds like song. Oh, I think I'd like to go to this place, Little Saigon. Oh, I think I'd like to go to this place, Little Saigon. Should we do another one?
Maybe one more.
All right. You are love in the way I understand it. You are love in your lightness and your song. You are love on the terms my soul demands it. You are love that I will follow into the dawn. Never before, no, never again has my heart beat so full and content. So I'll give it all, baby, and then some. Life before you was just pretend. You are love in the way I understand it. You are love in your lightness and your song. You are love on the terms my soul demands it. You are love that I will follow into the dawn.
I dare not dismiss
or speak impolitely
of the lovers who have led me to your door.
But what are candles compared to lightning? The sky is on fire like never before. You are love in the way I understand it. You are love in your lightness and your song. You are love on the terms my soul demands it. You are love that I will follow into the dawn. You are love that I will follow into the dawn.
Thanks for having us, everybody.
If you can, take yourself off mute and express your gratitude for No Boy Project and Julian and Amelia for being with us.
Thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate you.
Off move. Yeah, let's hear it.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you. I wish we could be there in person with you.
We do too.
Yes. Wonderful.
But yeah, keep
you.
teaching, keep being good humans,
Amazing.
help other people be good humans in these times, and hopefully a little music to end your evening or start your evening wherever you are. And yeah, we can't thank you enough, Patrick. Everybody, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and Julian, get well. For REA folks, we will be hanging around. We still got some more time, so I'm gonna take let's take about a 5-minute break to do your bio thing, and then come on back here, and then we're gonna hear about the impact of becoming good ancestors, what this all means for us, and have a little discussion and hear from Ann Walker and Christine Hong, our new DEI officer. So take 5 minutes, and we'll see you back here.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, everybody.
Julian, Amelia, thank you so much. Get well. Seriously.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, all the sleep, good energy, sending all the healing energies your way.
I appreciate it. I
feel it.
Feel it. Absolutely. All right.
Cool.
Peace.
See you.
Talk to you next time.
Seeing Gina Robinson on here, former board member, and Sarah Farmer, congratulations on appointments at the Wabash Center for Teaching and Learning. The long history with REA and Wabash is I'm just so happy, proud. We all are excited for you. Just congratulations. We want to talk and make some connections between what we just saw with No Boy Project and where REA is going, becoming good ancestors, what we want to do together to become good ancestors together through this guild. And part of setting that up is to think about how we might share leadership, how we might model a different way of being together as a guild. And so one of the things that we added to the presidential address was really an invitation for Ann Walker will be stepping into leadership, and Christine Hong, who we just hired as our DEI officer, to really kind of think through and offer a little bit of reflection on where this guild might be heading or where that work might be heading, as an invitation into a further conversation with the entire group here, really around what that work might look like. So we're going to queue up a video. It's about 20 minutes long, and then we'll open it up for discussion. If we'll see how the discussion goes, kind of Q&A. And if we need to break up into small groups, we are educators. So go ahead and ask for what you need in the chat as you watch this video. So think about, what type of discussion we need to have following it. Is that cool? Are we good? Yeah, nods. Cool. All right, cool. Eric, if you could hit that video, that'd be great. Thanks. What's going on? REA, Patrick Reyes here. So the program chair of this year, Becoming Good Ancestors, and we're doing this work together. So I brought some friends, colleagues, and leaders of this great institution together. So Ann Walker, who's the vice president and stepping up to be president in a couple of years, and our first ever DEI officer in Christine Hong. I'm so grateful for you. And we're going to reflect a little bit on the theme of this year and how this connects after a great conference with the kitchen table talks, and now with Nono Boy really sharing their gifts of storytelling from places that typically we don't hear stories from. And that's one of the questions I want to ask and open us with, is really, as we think about becoming good ancestors, is we're stewards of this institution of REA, a 5-generation-old organization. How do we think about what does this mean for our leadership stepping into this moment, the three of us transitioning with this great community, this cloud of witnesses, all the great folks who have presented this week, who have cared deeply about this issue, or thinking about what does it mean to be a good ancestor, to be a good citizen of this world. What does this moment mean for both of you?
I think for me, as vice president, I'm thinking about as we move into this diversity, equity, and inclusion space, especially with the hiring of Christine as our DEI officer, I'm thinking about the kind of multi-layered ways that we humanize and make people's story evident through our work in the REA. And when I say multi-layered, I mean through our leadership, through the ways we do decision-making together, right? In your article, Patrick, you talked about, why do we use Robert's Rules of Order? To govern ourselves, we could simply gather around a kitchen table, or, read a set of children's books, or look to our elders. How do we embody our commitments to justice and equity, not only through our embodied leadership, right, who we are, but also through the ways we make decisions, through the ways we gather, and through how we think about what valid and worthy scholarship is. So as I've been thinking about that, I've been thinking about, especially in terms of this of REA being a 5-generation organization, I think about there were a whole lot of ancestors there over the past 5 generations whose stories perhaps were not told as fully as they could have been, who were, along the kind of sides of the room, or who never presented a paper, but were simply there to learn about enlivening religious educational practice. And I know, there were people around lunch tables who were never spoken to, right? I remember being one of those doctoral students. And there are people who show up in these digital spaces who, come and kind of watch and have rich stories and incredible scholarship to share, whose stories aren't being told. And I want to ensure for, the 5 generations that are to come, including the children of all of us who are here, who are certainly going to be religious educators, that we think about in a multi-layered way how we're making room for our ancestors to speak.
I'm fixated on that work together, or on that word together. So I really believe that there are people, even in this moment, in this conversation, surrounding us, who are so proud that we are here. And that among the people that are in the 5 generations coming, that some of our future leaders are already in the room. So when we gather, whether it's in this space virtually or later on in person, that one of those or several of those doctoral students, like the future leader of this organization, is there. These are the people that are listening, that are thinking critical thoughts about the things that we're doing, that are going to push the thoughts that we think are really radical even further. And I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to be told, right, that you didn't go far enough. Because I really think that that's what we all hope for, is that we arrive together to that destination of what freedom really looks like in the Religious Education Association. I don't think that we're there yet, but I would hope that even though we might be afraid of what that looks like, that we could arrive together, that we don't leave people behind.
Right, but it may take another 5 generations or longer.
Yeah.
Right. And so to me, it's important. Part of what you said, I think it's important to note that this is about our presence here today, and the leadership that we can bring to the REA is about the ways we relate together and collaborate together, and also the ways that we create a broader community within the REA to continue that collaboration, and sometimes interrogation, right, of ourselves and our structures and the ways that we place a value on particular elements of our life together.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to be pushed.
I think part of that is also, while celebrating that we are here, that we are opening a new chapter of, I really do feel like a new chapter of this guild. How do we recognize and come to terms with the real fear that people have for what is new? And that's not new to REA, right? That's just human. When things are new, when things change, when we feel like that we might lose, especially power or access to things, or have to share those things more widely, and we're in spaces of dominance, how do we not let the fear freeze us so much that we're unable to push forward together with other people, that we actually are willing to stay behind rather than go with? And that's really, I think that's the tension of what we're trying to do with the JDEI work.
You know, all people in all traditions who have been on the margins in some way or another. And so our dance then is essentially a dance with the unknown. You might as well just put on you might as well be invited to just put on a blindfold and dance and see what comes of that. But I do think we're at a place where, at a turning point where we have this tradition and we have this sort of traditional choreography, and we want to dance in new ways, but we don't know what those are yet. Ugh.
Yeah, and I feel like even before your body can move into the dance, like we have to have a particular mindset in place, right? Being willing and ready. I cannot dance. Don't ever ask me to do that. But, you know, it's like part of the reason why I can't dance, this is just real truth telling right now, it's because I have a fear of doing it wrong, right? Like I have this from childhood, this fear that I'm going to look awkward. It's going to be embarrassing. And therefore, I'm just not going to try to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And I just have never felt comfortable doing it. And I feel like some of the work that we're trying to embark on in this guild is that way. We're academics. Academics are told that our CVs have to look pristine. You know, they have to be, you know, selected of our best things that we've put out there in the world, our best writings, our best contributions to the guild. We're in academia in many ways, it's a colonial enterprise. So we put forth this narrative of perfection, which is a supremacist narrative. And that is when we internalize that, how are we supposed to just allow ourselves to flail, right? And just to enjoy and just dance regardless, right? So I feel like part of it is, how do we I don't want to say reshape, but how do we create a mindset that's a little bit more like clay, that can be shaped and molded and bend a little bit and try new things? And part of that is leaning away from that need or that internalized pressure to present the perfect narrative of the guild. We are not ever going to be a perfect place. And I think if we're coming here wanting some sort of perfect place to be that makes everybody comfortable and happy, something else is needed there, right? The guild is never going to be that place, but could it be a place of creative imagination and pushing and rejuvenation and challenge? And how do we rise to those moments of challenge and have the mentality where we say, if it's a challenging moment, what is the opportunity in that challenge, rather than, okay, this challenging moment means I have to run away now.
I think about what that means for what we count as good scholarship. I think about what if we came to the REA with our biggest questions instead of the strength of our conclusions, right? When we present papers and we identify a program chair to bequeath his wisdom upon us, we're really asking for the strength of someone's conclusions. So what do you, as you look forward, Chris, into your first year, or even like first 3 years, that might be a little far off, but if you think about your, what you're embarking upon as the REA's first DEI officer, like, what does it look like to you in your work to guide us into those spaces of recognition where perhaps someday we can play?
I think it looks like moments where we come together and say truth both boldly and softly and consistently. So sometimes those truths are, those are the things that we fear that people will say out loud, like the truth of, the deepest, the thing that's in you that you want people to never see about you. And for someone to call that out into a public space, or even right before you, or just even in conversation, is the fear. I think part of it is understanding that everyone has a fear like that. Everyone has something about them that they fear will be challenged, a belief, a deep understanding about, or a lack of understanding about another tradition or another person. And being reminded of that is, I think, really helpful to humanizing other people. Sometimes I feel like when people have trouble humanizing another person, it's because they actually have a really hard time looking at themselves in the mirror. They actually have a really hard time seeing who they are. So could we create moments like that in the next 3 years, where we're able to see clearly who we are as individuals, and also within community, that we're able to clearly see who one another are without being in competition, right? I think that that's the other thing that happens sometimes in DEI work and organizational, or, organizations like ours and beyond, is that DEI can feel like policing.
Yeah.
It can feel like, let's just put in order of most important to least important, the suffering of humanity. But when has that ever gotten us anywhere productive, right? It's only helped us fight for the crumbs under the table. So how do we instead hear all the voices together in that cacophony and not have to fight to diminish another voice to be heard? I think that that's the challenge. It's the challenge because we have all been in moments when we have felt our personhood and our voices diminish for the sake of somebody else. And we fear being entrapped in something like that again, as much as we fear causing it. So part of it is just, again, together. How do we do this together? How do How do we hear each other in the dissonance and not have to make sense of all of it all at once? I think part of the reason why DEI work is so challenging is that we, again, are leaning towards that narrative of what does it look like on the other side and how do we get there, and show me the map. Show me the 10 things I have to do, the listicle of things on BuzzFeed that will get me to be a not racist person, right? But we know as educators that doesn't work. Being together, fighting sometimes, moving through conflict, not around it. Those are the things that actually push the work of justice forward. And that's why the J is in front of the DEI, that it's not just inclusion, but it's really belonging and it's justice that we're looking for.
As we wrap up, this has been I'm just so grateful for the leadership that you both are bringing to it. I want to give you this one last question. This conference, this moment has been around becoming a good ancestor. What does it mean to be a good ancestor? I got lots of ancestors, and there's few that kind of stick out. And those are a combination of those who both were able to see the rhythms of life, kind of live into the rhythms of life. In our organization, REA, we have rhythms in journal publications, in board meetings, in budgetary conversations, in the way that we staff. We have these rhythms from ancestors who gave us these practices, these artifacts to live out. But we also know that becoming good ancestor means, or often are those who are recognized for breaking those rhythms and finding new ones and new ways forward. So as we think about this moment, and I'm curious as to what rhythm you both are creating or hoping to create for that next generation of religious educators, not just here in the US, but across the globe, the folks we have in Europe and Southeast Asia and the global South. What is the rhythm that you're hoping to set for us in the 21st century for a guild that was founded prior to World War I? But what does it mean to find a new rhythm for the next 5 generations?
It's hard for me to think about a question like that without thinking about my own kind of positionality in the world. My dad's lineage is from a group of Cherokee freedom fighters here in Oklahoma, and a group of land running farmers who came to Oklahoma to take Indian territory for their own. And so when I think about my own identity and how I hope to lead, it is as a person who is interrogating both sides of who I am, right? Because I'm Cherokee doesn't mean I don't need to interrogate the insidious white supremacy and colonialism that is in my ancestry. And at the same time, I also need to know as much as I can about the creativity, gifts, and resilience of my ancestors who walked from North Carolina to Oklahoma and survived in order to understand the fullness of who I am. And so, for me, what that means for REA in the 21st century is that we've got to begin to look at this organization from the multiple dimensions of our embodied reality, right? Who is here? How do we reorient our life together, our leadership, our decision-making, our gathering, and our scholarship in ways that cultivate that dimensionality and are honest about both the resilience and the pillaging. So to me, that means yes, there is explicit, it means paying attention to the implicit dynamics in our explicit activity. And how is the implicit facilitating explicit engagement with that dimensionality, with the fact that REA is an international organization with people from all parts of the globe. The fact that the REA is, has grown out of the Christian colonial enterprise. How do we grapple with, how do we ever know the stories of those ancestors whose stories weren't told at REA? Are there resources that we have to learn more? So for me, it's about discernment and exposure to a multitude of stories, and paying attention not only to creating opportunities for play, but creating opportunities to lament and grieve. And perhaps think about what good scholarship is in brand new ways.
Yeah, I love that idea. Thinking about scholarship as it helps me think about the fact that I have so many scholars in my family who never had a PhD, who never, my grandmother who taught me, my maternal grandmother who taught me most of everything I know as a spiritual person, I think graduated the 4th grade or the 5th grade, right? And she was the wisest person and the most learned person that I knew my entire life and still know. So I think about that, so many of us are bringing folks like that with us, just in our spirit when we arrive to these meetings. How do we recognize those other people in the room? And I think when we do that, we recognize that there are people around us who have really helped prepare us to be in spaces like this and say what we want to say. It becomes much more important to speak the truth. Becomes much more important to say the types of truths that will shift things around for the better for all. So, for me, that is really what I'm looking forward to, is joining people in doing that work. And it does come from those ancestors who are around us, who are saying, you have arrived in this moment for a particular reason. And there are things that that maybe they have said that were never heard that we can now say, and it will be heard. But I also hope that my ancestors have prepared my ears to hear the truths that I need to hear too. And I know that there's probably a lot of fear around now that JDI is here, and it's here forever, because this is forever work, that there might not be room for everyone anymore. But the fact of the matter is, this work is only possible if everybody sees a stake in it. We can't be a room full of people that just think all the same thoughts, because that's not how change happens. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is not so much the tension and conflict. I don't look forward to that, but I know it's necessary. I know it's necessary to push change, and to also to create and expand space so that the next 5 generations have room here.
I just want to say thank you to you both for your leadership, for the gift of friendship, for the fact that our ancestors are rejoicing that the 3 of us have come together with everyone else who's been here at REA, and to all the REA members who have presented on this theme for this last week, who have sat with us, who've sat with each other, have given the gift of time and presence and listening and reading and all the great energy that has been this week. I'm just so grateful that we have come together. And if for those who are new, because we extended this, and this gratitude to the board as well, to allow people who have never been to REA to see this as a potential home, to wrestle, to argue, to challenge, to bring our ancestors forward and fall deeply, madly in love with each other, because that's what the guild and the world needs, and to change this world so we can continue to inhabit, live on it for future generations. So gratitude to both of you for this conversation, and to thank you to the REA membership and all those who are on trial memberships for showing up this year. Deep gratitude. So I got some chats to me directly. So here's what's going to happen. I want to just remind everyone that we didn't just get here with the JDI stuff. It's not like this was something that this group in the last year came up with. This has been a long fought, long earned work of this guild that predated any of us who you just saw on this thing, on the video. this came out of a lot of organizational conversation, and we want to hear from you. Have some time to kind of unpack. You saw a just beauty. I just love Nono Boy. I just love what they do in the world, how they use and tell stories, and what they can capture and imagine. And you've heard now from our new DIA officer to really help us think through what does justice, diversity, equity, inclusion, access look like at REA, and think a little bit together around what that might mean for us. So I'm going to break us up into small groups based on stuff I got, unless I see people like shaking their heads like, heck no, I was going to take a nap, for about 10 minutes of conversation just around what you see as the commitments REA needs to make. And I have an invitation when you come back. Is that cool? Yeah. All right. I'm going to open up all the rooms. Have a great conversation. Don't forget to introduce yourselves. We got new members with us who are on trial membership. So welcome them into the space. And Chris and Ann, if you want to stay here, you can stay here. All right, let me move some of these folks. Give me just 1 second. Thanks, Eric. Welcome back. People had stuff to say. Welcome back as you all come back to the big group. I hope your discussions in small groups were rich. We have about 15 minutes to offer up some general reflections. So if you have something you want to share out of your group before we close out, this 15 minutes is the only thing standing between me and a dance party with Carmelita, my daughter. So keep that in mind when you're giving your comments, succinct, brief, on point. But we want to hear what was coming up for you in your small groups around the theme, becoming good ancestors, Julian's piece, or what we just heard from Chris and Ann. Take yourself off mute. We're all sort of friends here.
Hi from Elizabeth in Australia. And yeah, it's already tomorrow for you folks here, just to remind you. But what I've really appreciated about this concept, at first it seemed very strange to think about ancestors. And at first I was really grieving and disappointed and thought, I am single, I have no children, and religious education seems to be dying in Australia, and I was all depressed about it. But the conference has really helped me. This happens to be National Aboriginal and Islander Organising Committee NAIDOC Week here in Australia. So we're thinking about our Indigenous people and their contributions. So the conference has been really beautiful, and I thank you for ways in which that's already enriching my understanding of NAIDOC Week, even though we are celebrating other Indigenous things. And that's the beauty of this international organisation, that we do collaborate and confront. I appreciated Christine's concept about, and that's so different from the ageism that's so current in our society, where the older folks are not respected. So I've been thrilled as we have rediscovered the ancestors of religious education, and in many cases rediscovered that some of the ideas that we're putting forward in 2022 actually were around over the previous years. And I encourage folk to read about our ancestors, to read the older books, and not just the books published since 2000. But I also wanted to remind one another, and I thank you, Patrick, particularly for your leadership of this collaboration creative conference, that there are lots of practitioners as well as academics. And I want to say to you, academics, you are also practitioners, and holding together our differences and our similarities is what I really love about this organisation, that we listen to one another, that our questions are more important than our conclusions, and yet caution that we recognise that sometimes our questions actually direct the conversations and put unconscious limits on them. That's enough from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Others? How should I interpret your silence? Is it just that you all really want me to dance with Carmelita? I mean, that's totally fine. Any other reflections from this?
You know, Patrick, I'll jump in here. One of our members is fairly new and took up the buy one, get one or the free kind of invitation a couple of years ago and came back this year. So that's a good thing. And our conversation in our group shared about and this I think came out of, or this was part of the point of when Christine was talking in the video about, I don't embrace the conflict, but I know that it's going to happen and it's going to be there. And I think our group was saying, and I was saying, I think we're already in it. And so this person who's new was talking about how their experience of the RA, seeing all the decolonial pedagogies that we're trying to do and be committed to, the conversations around justice and DEI work and all of these things, and so hearing who are the voices that are actually talking in these plenaries and conversations, this person was so encouraged by it. And for those of us who have been in this, in the more recent history, let's say the last 5 years, and have been in the midst of the pain and the conflict of it, for me, I'll speak for myself, for me to hear this person share that is so hopeful and joyful. And that's life-giving to me. That's life-healing to me, and so I just wanted to share that with the rest of the people on this call.
Thank you, Mark. Let's get one more. Do we have one more?
Yeah, I'll jump in with a quick one. Over the years of REA, new things have been tried. Some of them were fun. Some of them were interesting. Some of them failed. But we keep trying them. And in that, I trust that the organization is going to continue evolving to be new and ancestral all at the same time. And that sort of is one of the things that came up in our group.
Thank you, Eileen. That's it's the joy of REA. Pedagogues can move and shake and try new things and learn from them and keep this guild moving. So a few things to kind of wrap up our time today. This is first to say this has been a true joy for me to accompany the organization through the creation of this this conference, the theme, the leadership, the papers, to be present for you all. Like I said at the beginning, I have not cried this much at an academic conference, to the point that I leave these space and my wife is really worried about me. So I tell her it's all good cries, all good tears. But I've just been so grateful to really accompany this moment and to know that the work continues and will continue on as we transition this new program, this new way of being, where we're electing a program with a program team and leadership that moves in. So if you have a call to think about program themes, or you're thinking creatively about this, know that this is a space that you can kind of write a proposal next year. Think about how you might imagine the REA plenary sessions and the program theme and how you might shape that in 2024 to come. Also, turn in those great papers. I heard a whole bunch of we need conference journal issues. And my only plea from you, as someone who struggles with this very much, but I'm going to plead to all of you, look at the guidelines and format it, help Joyce and her team out. But the papers have all been fantastic. I was reading through the 400 plus pages of proceedings, and the content is so rich that you all have put together. It would be a shame for it to be lost in just this moment of the last couple days. And then my last invitation to this group is we will be doing the advisory committee. So if you're looking for, if you're a new member, or you're someone who's been around and looking for, something to put on your CV, I'm participating in the academic leadership and plug in. The advisory committee, the way we've set it up is if you show up, you're on it. Congratulations. You are on the committee for a year. You can add it as something that you are going to be working on. And Anne and Christine are going to be leading that tomorrow to really think through and go deeper into some of the things they shared today. So I encourage everyone to show up for that meeting, and we'll do a closing ritual there. But please do participate in this guild, pay your dues, enjoy the trial membership if you're on trial membership, read the journal, cite the journal, turn in those papers, and just deep
download
gratitude.
it.
download. Legitimate download. Don't download and then share with your class. Get them to download it. Helps with our revenue. I'm just so grateful for each of you. And if I can ever do anything, my contact is all up on there. So if we think about this next year in leadership, if there's things, this theme has emerged in you that you think the REA should be about, or we should value or represent in the world, drop me a line, send me an email. I'd love to have a coffee conversation about what REA is up to. Deep gratitude to all of you. Enjoy your evenings. I'm going to go have a dance party.
Come on, let's unmute and applaud. Come on, let's make some noise here for Patrick, y'all.
Good job, Pat.
Good job. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful for both of you. And thank you too, Christine. Thank you too. Wonderful.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.